In this video, we're going to talk about what is depreciation. Before we talk about what is depreciation, we have to review some basic concepts and principles of accounting. So first, we have 5 asset types: asset, liability, equity, revenue, and expense. I'm going to define 2 of them. The 2 of them, assets and expenses, can be confusing because they're both things that we spend money on. In accounting, an asset is something of value owned or controlled by the company, and what is super important is that an asset gives you future benefits. It can be used in the future to produce revenue. Examples of that are inventory, buildings, and land. All of them last well beyond the current accounting period and can be used in the future. Expenses are the costs of producing revenues. And what's very important in accounting is that expenses are all used up. They produce no future benefits. So examples might be salaries. When you pay salaries, you're compensating employees for work that they've already done. And utilities are another example. You're paying the utility company for utilities you've already consumed, not the ones that you're going to consume in the future. Another concept that we're going to look at is called matching. In matching, we try very hard to match expenses to the period of time in which they're incurred, which means they're used. So let's talk about the purchase of a delivery van. Let's say I'm going to purchase a delivery van for $20,000. And let's say that van is going to last for 4 years. Okay, so let's take a look at that delivery van the day that I buy it. So on the day that I buy that delivery van, I am so excited. It's brand new, the tires are brand new, it's all nice and shiny. I'm so excited to bring it back to my business, and it has 0 miles on the odometer. So is that considered an asset or an expense? That is clearly an asset because it gives us no future benefits, and with 0 miles on the odometer, it means that nothing has been used up. So that is clearly an asset. So let's take a look at me using that delivery van over the next 4 years. So to tell you something about me personally, I wound up growing up in New York City, and I spent a lot of my adult life in Massachusetts, 2 places with the worst drivers ever. So when we take a look at that delivery van after 4 years, it is certainly not going to look the same. So the front of the van is going to be all bashed in. There's a caution falling apart sign on the back of the van. The tires, are all flat and not useful anymore. There's rust and dents all over the van. And I try to start it up to make one final delivery. It's going to belch black smoke. It's going to shudder and die. So I think most of you will agree with me at that point that that is now an expense, because it has now all been used up. So now let's go into that principle of matching. That $20,000 by the end of 4 years is an expense because it's all been used up. Was that $20,000 an expense the day I bought the van? No, because the van gave me future benefits. Is it an expense the day the van died? So we just expensed $20,000 on the day the van died? Well, that will violate the matching principle because we actually used that van over several years. So what we're going to do, let me erase this 4 years. I'm going to take $20,000. I'm going to divide it by the 4 years. and I'm going to get $5,000 per year. Now, very important, this has nothing to do with operating the van. So it's not the cost of gas, it's not the repairs and maintenance, it's just the cost that we had to have that van available over the 4-year period. So what's going to happen is at the end of year 1, we're going to show a $5,000 expense. But now the book value of the van is now $15,000. Representing that 1 year of life is in the past and 3 years of life remain. At the end of year 2, we will take a second $5,000 expense, and the book value of that van will now be $10,000, representing that 2 years of use are in the past, $5,000 1/4 in the first year, $5,000 1/4 in the second year, and the book value shows us that 2 years remain from this point forward. At the end of year 3, we'll take a third $5,000 expense, and the book value will now be $5,000. Representing once again that now 3 years are in the past. Notice a $5,000 expense each of the 3 years, and at the end of the 3 years, the book value shows that we have only 1 year in the future. And then finally, at the end of year 4, we will take our final $5,000 expense, and now our book value is going to be 0. So, in practicality, in real life, the van may not be totally used up at the end of year 4. That's perfectly fine in terms of depreciation because the 4 years was an estimate. So if it lasts longer than 4 years, we just don't get any more depreciation expense because the original cost of $20,000 has been written to expense. The book value also helps us if we dispose of the van or it becomes unusable before the end of the period of time. So let's say we wanted to sell the van at the end of year 3. Well, at the end of year 3, the book value is $5,000 on the van. If we sell it for more than $5,000, we have a gain. If we sell it for less than $5,000, we have a loss. And if we wind up junking it, it becomes unusable. The loss becomes $5,000. So we're going to write off the cost of the van over the period of use. I hope this helps you to understand the concept of depreciation. Now watch my remaining video on how to calculate depreciation.